Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. Thanks so much for joining us on this beautiful night in America. We know you have so many options on where you can choose to spend your night, where you can get your news. So we always appreciate you joining us here on the Great America Show, where we always promise to bring you truth, justice, and the American way. Hope you all had a great weekend. Over the weekend, we got some new details emerging from a New York Times investigation, not from the NTSB, not from the FAA, on that plane crash, that Black Hawk helicopter crash that happened in D.C. in late January that took the lives of 67 individuals, 3 in the Black Hawk, 64 in that commuter American Airlines aircraft. The report, as I said, was published by the New York Times on Sunday, and it details the Black Hawk's exchange with air traffic control in the lead up to the disaster. According to the report, the Black Hawk pilot, Captain Rebecca Lobach, was conducting her annual flight review, and her co-pilot, Chief Warrant Officer 2, Andrew Eves, was serving as her flight instructor. When the air traffic controllers informed the Black Hawk that there was an airliner nearby, Lobach and Eves acknowledged the message and requested visual separation, which means you acknowledge that you see the aircraft and that you are taking control as the pilot in command, that you will maintain visual separation without air traffic controller having to intervene. That's the task that you take on when you ask or you agree for visual separation. Going further, the Black Hawk was 50. Now, this is according to the New York Times investigation. The Black Hawk was 15 seconds away from the cross paths with the jet. Warrant Officer Eves, who was evaluating Miss Rebecca Lobach, then turned his attention to Captain Lobach. He told her he believed that the air traffic controller wanted them to turn left towards the East Riverbank. Turning left would have opened up more space between the helicopter and the passenger flight 5342, which is heading towards runway 33 at an altitude of roughly 300 feet. She did not turn left, the report indicates. Lobach, of Durham, North Carolina, served as an aviation officer in the Army beginning in July of 2019, had around 500 flight hours of flying time in the Black Hawk, which is not particularly high. You need 1,000 hours, in some cases 1,500 hours, to be hired by an airline. She was assigned to the 12th Aviation Battalion in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Her awards included Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and the Army Service Ribbon to the Army. She was also a White House military social aide in the Biden administration. Now, the third member of the flight crew, along with Lobach and Eves, was Staff Sergeant Ryan O'Hara. So the interesting thing here that we learn now, folks, is that Lobach acknowledged that the plane was in sight, acknowledged that she saw it, and did not do anything to subvert that plane. Now, her family confirms that she had no medical impairments, that there was nothing going on with her, that she was all there medically, and that there was no issues. But why did she not heed the warning? She acknowledged that she saw the plane in sight. Turning left would have almost guaranteed to avoid this incident. Now, they say with 15 seconds. As a pilot myself, you could have averted an accident like that in probably half that time, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, maybe even 4 seconds. Now, they say they were operating with night vision goggles. They say that may have played a role in it, but it doesn't excuse the fact that she acknowledged she had that in sight, but proceeded to crash into that plane. Now, I'm not suggesting it was on purpose by any stretch of the imagination, but 64 people in a passenger plane were killed. So that warrants and demands some answers from the military on their training practices. And why the ADSB? So in these aircrafts and civilian aircrafts, you have something called a transponder. And a transponder is a piece of device in your plane that relays a signal to air traffic control. So if you've seen on a radar screen before, they have the green blips on the screen. There's a number that corresponds to each aircraft. So in other words, if you go flying, you're on a commercial airliner, before you leave the gate, air traffic control says American Airlines Flight 5347, squawk 1234. You put 1234 in your transponder, and now you appear on their screen as 1234 with the coinciding call sign. That's how every aircraft in America works, probably with the exception of some secretive military aircraft and Air Force One. Now, this plane, this Black Hawk, was under a squawk code, so they appeared on the blip every about 6 seconds. What they didn't have turned on was the ADS-B, which is another more intuitive radar measure, which gives a blip about every second. So rather than 6 seconds, you'd get a blip every second. Now, apparently it was turned off because the secretive mission that they were doing, you would have need to have it turned off, but that doesn't make any sense why you would have it turned off, even on a rescue test mission. You're flying in a very busy airspace with a very small corridor maneuvering, yet you had this turned off when aviation aircrafts were coming in and landing. Now, they say that DCA traffic starts to slow down around 9:30 at night. Why wouldn't they be doing the test missions at 9:30 at night or 10 o'clock at night? Why would you be doing it in the heat of rush hour when planes are coming in and out of DCA airport, especially with a rather inexperienced pilot? It doesn't make much sense, does it? We'll keep you posted on anything that comes out more about this, but we felt it was an obligation to us to bring you this news. As 64 people on that plane, plus the 3 in that aircraft, in that helicopter, lost their lives. We need action, and we want to know what happened. Now, this isn't the only thing that's been happening lately with our military. Just this week, okay, you ready for this, folks? A $70 million Navy F-18 Super Hornet fell off the USS Harry Truman into the Red Sea. The U.S. Navy has confirmed that the Super Hornet, which is one of America's premier fighter jets, fell off the Truman and sank into the Red Sea on Monday, April 28th, which was today. According to the official report, the $70 million aircraft from the Strike Fighter Squadron, VFA 136, along with the tow tractor moving it, pulled overboard while the carrier was operating in one of the world's most strategically important waterways. Both personnel management jumped to clear in time, with only one sustaining a minor injury. Folks, how does this happen in America on our ships? The military needs a massive overhaul, and I'm not saying this is on Pete Hegseth by any stretch of the imagination, as he's got a hell of a job to come in and clean this thing up. But, I mean, this is what's been going on. It's truly a travesty. In other news, at the White House today, Tom Homan made an appearance in the White House briefing room, and he brought up that judge that they arrested for harboring illegal aliens. Take a listen to Tom Homan. This is a man who I think all Americans should look up to.
To answer your question, as far as the judges, look, we just arrested a judge, Pam Bondi, for impeding ICE enforcement removals. I said from day one, you don't have to support ICE's operations. You can support sanctuary cities if that's what you desire to do. Sanctuary cities can stand aside and watch ICE keep their community safe, because any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of communities. And ICE has been clear, we're targeting public safety threats and national security threats. I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us. But I said from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted, judge or not. And as far as releasing so many people, you know why the Biden administration released millions of people in the United States? No one ever talks about it. I'll talk about it. Why did they release people into the interior of the United States and put them, rather than put them into an ice bed? Why not put them in an empty ice bed at $127 a night rather than in a hotel room at $500 a night? They did it on purpose, because when you put them in an ice detention bed, they get a hearing in 35 days. Court records show 9 out of 10 people claim asylum, get order removal, they're gone. But if you release them and put them in a hotel room at $500 a night, their hearings can be 5, 7, 9 years. You pull out all appeals, and what are they hoping for then? That another Democrat administration is in power. They can award an amnesty to millions. This is about selling this country off for future political power. That's what it was. The law clearly says if you arrive at our border without proper documentation, you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, shall. And that's what President Trump's doing. Catch and release is over. That's what.
God bless Tom Homan and the work that he's doing here in this country. We need more people in the administration like Tom Homan, who doesn't care about whose feelings they hurt or anything else. They care about truth, justice, and the American way and following law and order in this country, which we haven't seen for a very, very, very long time. So President Trump's first 100 days is tomorrow. And there's a lot of pollsters out there who are saying he's underwater. If you watch Fox News, Karl Rove promises that he's underwater. And the only thing he's doing right is immigration. ABC News, New York Times, Siena, who hasn't done a poll since Election Day and has been wrong every single time since 2020 on presidential polling, tells us that President Trump's underwater, the people are revolting, but that's not entirely true. Every metric I see, support for President Trump and his administration is still very high. The American people still support him. Now, yes, immigration is particularly high because it was a big issue that Donald Trump ran on. He ran on fixing. So, yes, it's going to be particularly high. And yes, the economy, we're working through some speed bumps right now as President Trump tries to onshore jobs, as he tries to bring back manufacturing jobs to America, as he tries to make America great again. Yes, there are going to be speed bumps, folks. You and I both know that. Anything we do in life, any change we make, nothing is seamless, right? You put your kid in a new school. They don't have friends right away. Takes a little time, right? You change jobs. Takes a lot to get acclimated to. You meet new friends. You learn new things, right? Nothing is seamless. Nothing is ever going to be seamless. So yes, there are some hiccups right now, but that's normal. Donald Trump has only been in office a few months, his administration a few months. Now, I'm not justifying why Pam Bondi or Dan Bongino are not keeping up on their promises. We're going to take that all up on today's show. But as for the economy, President Trump told us he was going to do this. He told us he wanted jobs back here in America. He told us he was going to bring real estate and development back into America. He now has trillions of dollars. I think the last estimate was about $5 trillion of people pledging to come spend here in America. IBM today, $150 billion they're going to spend here in America, the most they've ever spent. Okay, so yes, there are hiccups, folks. It's going to take a little time. Rome wasn't built overnight. That's the saying, right? So I want to get a sense of what's going on. Are these numbers real? Are people really upset with Donald Trump and his administration? Do they want to see more out of him? Our guest today is going to be Mark Mitchell, head and lead pollster for Rasmussen Reports. I want to get a sense on what the American people are saying and really saying, because Mark was spot on in the 2024 election, off by a very, very small margin, but he got the numbers right. He said Donald Trump was going to win. He said Donald Trump was going to win the popular vote, just as he did. So I want to get a real sense on what's going on. Not the Fox News polling, not the ABC polling, and not the MSNBC, CNN's, Wall Street Journal. They're all cut from the same cloth. They all hate Donald Trump. And in turn, they all hate this country.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillow is only $14.98. Queens, $18.98. King size, only $1 more. Body pillows, $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Joining us now is Mark Mitchell, head and lead pollster for Rasmussen Reports. Mark, I want to start with some news that's been making the headlines lately, and it's been Steve Bannon. He's telling us that Donald Trump is running for re-election in 2028. Trumpstore.com is now selling hats that say Trump 2028 on it. We've spoken about this in the past before now. I think it's a farce. It's a troll move. But the left is dead on that Trump is running in 2028. Tell us your thoughts on what's going on here.
Maybe it's just to destabilize them, to be honest with you, but I don't think they need that much help. At this point, trolling the left is probably a waste of Trump's time because they're in such utter disarray. But I mean, politically, it's not like that bad of I mean, there's a shot. We asked about it. The 22nd Amendment is the Constitution limits the president to 2 terms in office. Would you approve or disapprove of repealing the 22nd? And it gets 35% approval, only 48% strong disapprove. But Republicans were like, bring it. Like Republicans want Donald Trump to run again. Over 50% of them said repeal the 22nd Amendment. And keep in mind, this allows like Obama to run again too and all that stuff. The way we asked it, we still got 52% Republican approval. And people think if he runs again, a majority, 53% said, yeah, he's likely to win. Only 35% say no. So, I mean, stranger things have happened, I guess. We have new polling out that people think we're living in a fascist dictatorship.
Hold on. Don't give it to the people yet. They've got to wait for that, Mark. That's the good
They got to wait for that. I'm just saying, like, we're playing fast and loose by the rules right now. And so of all the constitutional crises that we've potentially seen and avoided or not, is this really the biggest one? I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to get to so much. Mark's got so much new polling out as we come up tomorrow in the first 100 days in office. We're going to get to all of that, but I wanted to get this 2028 out of the way. I had Roger Stone on the show last week, Mark. I was down in Florida. I sat down with Roger, and we started talking about this whole thing, and we started talking about Steve Bannon a little bit and how I think the whole 2028 thing is crazy. It makes people look crazy. Would I love to see Donald Trump run infinitely and run this country until the day I die? Absolutely, and I think there's a lot of people who would agree, but it's unrealistic, and I know Donald Trump believes that too. And I think after this, Donald Trump has had enough. Caroline Leavitt was asked about it at a sit-down recently. Let's take a listen to what she had.
The official Trump stores now selling hats that say Trump 2028, $50. Even though the Constitution doesn't envision a term 3 for President Trump or any president, is that just a hat?
It's just a hat. The president was asked and answered this question yesterday. It's not something he's thinking of, though I hear the hats are flying off the shelves.
Oh, man. It's definitely trolling. You know what I think it is? It's like, okay, if somebody wronged you and they got caught and you know they got to apologize, it's like maybe you're going to make it super hard for them. I think that's kind of what it is. You know, like Trump has complete political power now. You know, people like Gavin Newsom are starting to like, oh, I'm going to bring Steve Bannon on and talk to him. And Steve Bannon will go on and be like, Trump 2028. Maybe it's just twisting the knife. Maybe it's just like, I don't know.
I'm all for troll. I had a girl tell me the other day, are you ever serious, or did you just troll me 24/7? And I'm like, I can't control it, man. I do like 95%, Mark, and it pisses a lot of people off, but it makes a lot of people love me as well. I probably piss more people off than love me, but that's fine. I like joking around. It makes things so much easier. And I think that's why you and I get along so well, is because we don't take everything so seriously and we don't take everything so literally. You and I were talking before the show about mental illness in this country. And if people were like you and I, per se, and they just took a step back and they relaxed and they laughed and they took everything with a grain of salt, I think this country, Mark, would be on a way better track than we're on right now. Not that I'm saying we're on a bad track, but mental health wise is an issue in this country, and people take everything so literally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pollster, right? I do public opinion, so I should be very concerned about mental health. And I am, because I think a lot of people are super crazy right now. We've talked about so many different angles, like the very massive gulf between what people believe who watch one cable TV news channel versus another. That's not healthy. That's super sick. And some of those people are fixating on essentially what is fake issues. And that's like really causing problems because the threat of violence is being escalated. We've asked on that so many different ways, but like almost 6-1 people think that even after Trump's election that things are getting more politically divisive, like it's really bad. And then I think there's this whole level of probably a rentier class who figured out that they could turn mental health as a service into some like massive 10, 20, $30 billion a year, probably taxpayer funded like heist. So there's probably that going on.
Are you talking about shrinks?
Oh yeah, I was playing around with Grok, and Grok estimates that 40 to 50% of all therapist hours in the U.S. come from taxpayer funded programs. And so it's like, if you're the therapist, are you gonna fix that mental health problem, or are you just gonna bilk Medicaid for all you can? Right? Probably bilk Medicaid. And then you have, well, it's convenient for the left to have a whole lot of super mental people because they can whip them up into a frenzied outrage over all kinds of stuff that's fake. Just look at the Elon salute that turned into cars being burned down at dealerships. Yep. They literally weaponized that into political violence. And that's just a bunch of insane people. And so it suits them. And of course, I was sharing with you that graph that Pew did excellent research and showed that 18 to 29-year-old female liberals have the highest diagnosis of mental conditions at over 50%. Absolutely insane.
It's just thinking back how times have changed. You're a little bit older than me, not much. When you were younger, Mark, I don't think it was as bad as it was now. And we've spoken about this before, whether it be the way that parenting is done. And, I consider myself, I'm a millennial, but I consider my generation probably the best. And I'll tell you why. I lived a life, Mark, without a cell phone. Okay. I lived a life where I used to have to go knock on my friend's door to go ride my bicycle. But I also progressed into the time where I knew what it was like to have a cell phone, and I learned the ways. And I mean, it was really a turning point in this country, technology wise. And I got the best of both worlds. And I would take all that back, Mark, and do it all over again the same way. The days of not having a cell phone, the days of me doing something wrong and my dad whooping my ass, I wouldn't trade that for the world because it made me into the person I am today. So back to what I was saying without ranting and bloviating, is when you were younger, we didn't have as many people going to see shrinks and therapists, and we didn't have these shrinks putting people on lorazepam and these antidepressants, Mark, that we find out now melt your brain. It's literally what these things do. We didn't have that. So why is it now that we've entered this stage, and it's not even just Trump derangement syndrome, it happened way before that, where people go to these shrinks and these therapists, and to each his own, if you want to do it, I don't agree with it, but to each his own, and they prescribe you these medicine and keep coming back. It's like you become a drug addict.
Yeah, I was pondering this, and I think that Zoomers don't know how good we had it. They just have no idea. And I also think the boomers have no idea how bad Zoomers have it. I think that's ultimately the gulf, because we see 18 to 29, 39-year-olds going more conservative, older voters going less conservative, and that's because they're trying to keep what they have. And I think that it was all stolen from us. And I think it was stolen from us by the oligarchy. And I don't think we're going to get it back. I think that we have a couple of options in order to wrestle control from the oligarchy. One of them is a strong executive leadership. The other is revolution. And at a certain point, that's what's going to happen. But it was a maximum rent-seeking behavior by powerful people. Okay, there were so many structural economic reasons that all those things you were talking about existed. Well, there wasn't a scarcity of housing. People could afford things. People weren't going into super debt. Most households were able to survive on one income because wages were high relative to the cost of things. We didn't spend 22% of our gross domestic product on the healthcare industry because people hadn't figured out to turn it into a racket yet. Like back when you and I were kids, you basically went to the doctor and paid $50 or whatever it was, right? And that's what, and like even think about the stores we shopped at. And granted, when I was a kid, there were department stores and there were grocery stores as well. Yeah. They were staffed with people, that were humans, and they set the margins. Now you have like perverted AIs like trying to extract maximum value out of your dollar every single consumer interaction you have. And so everything has been turned to squeeze every drop out of the American middle class. That's what it's been. Ship the jobs overseas, put the boot on the neck with the technological censorship and the nanny state. And it's all got to, I don't know how much of that Trump can roll back, but there is another side, and there will be more community and stuff. I hope my kids can experience it.
I think
it's getting bad. Yeah.
I think you're probably raising your kids the right way. Last time I saw you, you said something along the lines of, you don't own anything over $150. And it reminds me so much of my father,
Yeah.
who, worked on Wall Street his whole life and never bought a suit. My mom would go suit shopping for him. And I mean, he was wearing very, very expensive suits, but if he ever found out what those suits cost, he would lose his mind. And it's just the mentality on where we've come. It's about what kind of car you drive now. It's about what kind of watch you're wearing. It's about where your clothes are made or what kind of sneakers you're wearing, and not down to the core values of like what you said. It's a matter of outpacing the next person and the next person. And over the last few months, Mark, I've really looked into it and I've really thought deeply about it. And, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't own a Rolex or own nice things, but I've really like pulled back and looked in the mirror and said, like, what is it all for? Like, why do I need this $10,000 watch, or why do I need these expensive shoes? And I've come to realize it's really, really stupid.
Yeah. Well, more does not equal better, right? I think what happened is that the global homo economic oligarchy, whatever you want to call them, right? They made everything super available on slave labor overseas. And so you can get anything you want cheap, and every super niche experience. Back when I was a kid, a video game cost $50 or $60, inflation adjusted. That's like $150, $200. We had 3 of them, and we really valued them, and they were a luxury. They were our Rolex watch. And I'm not saying don't have nice stuff, but it's like everybody, what people value, right, has really changed. Because when we were a kid, people valued competition, interaction, discourse, community, shared experiences. And now what everybody values seems to be, a quick hit of dopamine, basically. And our products are like that, our food's like that, our entertainment's like that, the way we interact with people is like that. And that's probably going to revert to the mean too. And I have no idea how that looks. Maybe it'll just be people talking to each other and eschewing social media, or maybe we'll all be plugged into some matrix. I don't know, but it's going to come back.
You're absolutely right. It's what really made me realize was I have friends who are very, very rich, Mark, and I have friends who are working class people who make a paycheck that they need to survive on. And this is what really made me realize it was, I'm hanging out with these really rich friends one day, and I'm like, they're all miserable, number one. Everything they talk about is money. Everything's money this, money that. And then the next week I hung out with my friends who are working class, blue collar people, and I'm like, they're so much happier. Like everything about them is happier. I have a better time hanging out with them because we can talk about nonsense. We can bullshit about anything, and not everything's about money or what kind of car I'm driving. And earlier in the year, I drove a Porsche. I sold it, Mark, and I bought myself a Jeep Wrangler, and I'm so much happier. I've just come to realize now, like, society is just so bogged down by what you're driving, what you're wearing, and the price tag on your clothes. I think that's a song lyrics, by the way, but it's really come to that, and I think it's absolutely killing society.
It's dystopian. We've lost the ability to dream, right? Like, if I could not never work again, like right now, what would I do with the rest of my life? Well, I have an answer for that. I would build wooden ships, probably, or something like that. And I think the vast majority of people who make our decisions for us, figure out how our society is going to run economically, control the vast majority of the wealth allocation, probably don't have answers to those questions. Yeah. They probably don't, right? And it's like, well, just squeeze every drop. And at a certain point, like, there's not a lot of people starving, right? Like, we have access to more crap than we've ever had access to, cheaper than ever before. And yet people aren't happy. Like, weirdest dystopia ever.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If I had all the money in the world, Mark, and I can go, do whatever, my dream job is to go down to Aruba, open up a little pizzeria shack on the beach, buy 2 or 3 jet skis, and sit there all day and rent them out. That's my dream job, and it's the simple and finer things.
You can do that one now.
I can do the Great American Show from the beaches of Aruba. I actually have a friend who owns 3 restaurants down there, and he goes down like twice a month, and Aruba's a beautiful place. Highly recommend it.
You'd be John the digital nomad.
You know what? Separating from reality, Mark. If there's ever a day where I can get rid of my cell phone and I can get rid of technology and I can do this show like a good old reeling film, I would do it in a heartbeat. The day I can get rid of a cell phone is going to be the day that I absolutely. I was telling you before. I just got back. I took my father for an early Father's Day gift to Scottsdale, Arizona, and we played 4 or 5 rounds of golf, and we hiked the canyons. And I didn't take my phone out very much. I took Friday off, and people are probably wondering as they're sitting here watching today where the hell I was. Just to disconnect from reality is such a nice thing from time to time, and I can't wait.
The problem is the ages we're in, John.
Yeah.
This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. My rifle is my best friend, is my life. I must master it as I must master my life.
Is that Full Metal Jacket?
Problem. No, that's the United States Marine Corps Rifle Creed. But I'm just saying, it's like when an information war is being fought, like I can put this down when it's won. When all of the news and the media isn't fake, when all of the pollsters put out their best effort of accurate information, then I can hang up the cell phone and retire it.
You're absolutely right. You know what? They give us a job, though, Mark. They give us a thing. And I can't say I've ever been happier doing this job. It was the reason I stayed in this. I left the airline industry of being a pilot to come do this. And, I come out here every day and I have a blast because people tune in, and it makes it that much more worth it.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Mark, let's turn to the first 100 days before we get to the polling and where Donald Trump is at right now. I want to get your assessment on his first 100 days in office, where we're at, where we're going. Are you underwhelmed? Are you overwhelmed? Has he underperformed? And this is your personal opinion. Has he underperformed? Has he overperformed? Has he kept his promises? And do you believe he could have done more? It's a lot to unpack. The floor is yours to unpack it as you will.
All right. I'm not going to talk about the polling at all.
No, we'll get to that.
So I personally, like I said, I think our entire system of democracy has been co-opted and corrupted by powerful people. I think that I'm very cynical. I think almost everybody's been bought out by something, some influence or whatever. Basically, we're being oppressed by occupied territory, Washington, D.C., and I think that needs to change. Now, how do you change? There's a bunch of ways you could change. Unfortunately, everyone is in an escalation. Okay. And so right now, I think what Trump is an escalation. Trump 2, it's an escalation. We tried McCain. It didn't work. Right. Okay. The people are giving you Trump now. How's it going to go? And what Trump 2.0 came out of the gates as is a totally different animal that nobody was prepared for. Remember, we were looking at Google search volumes of suicide and expatriation and stuff like that in Washington, D.C. And so it was very clear that there was something different about Trump, that the governor was off, that he was going to actually take an axe to the apparatus. Now, I look every day and frame my opinion on, has that changed? Has there been a change to a calculus? Has he been declawed? Is this train off the tracks? And I don't know the answer to that question. I have concerns, and I know that Trump could have been more effective if he hadn't been saddled with all these legal issues, if Congress had been a little bit more aggressive. Trump came in at DEFCON 1, and Congress came in at DEFCON 4. That's ultimately what it came down to. And the establishment Republicans didn't have his back. And we should thank them, for kicking the CR can or getting like 2 or 3 law, whatever they got through. I mean, it's been absolutely piddling. And so I think the expectations of Americans were low, then immediately became very high. And I think a lot of folks in the political circles have now seen how deep this abyss goes. And it is deep and it is dark. And so now I think to myself, well, are we going to be able to cover that up? Can we go back to self-governance when everybody literally knows the government is just like how much they've sold out the American people? And so I look for signs that Trump is going to acknowledge that. And they give us some. We're getting baited with stuff like that. Oh, you're going to get the Epstein client list. Well, who knows? Like, let's see it. I can tell you that maybe the majority of voters could go back to a scenario where everybody chills out a little bit. They vote for stale Republican people. But I think like the ideological core of the right, never going to forget how bad this was. Because look at how much the 2020 steal invigorated everybody and really brought everyone together. So I just don't, I've been saying, I don't think you can put the toothpaste back in the tube. And when I see things like Doge moving the goalposts back, I wonder if they're trying. And if they are trying, they should stop, because I don't think the toothpaste can go back in the tube.
That's one of your favorite sayings.
Yeah.
Let's begin with a few things that you had mentioned. Epstein, before we get to retribution, the Epstein files. And I said this to you before. How many more people need to die, commit suicide before we get this list? And this isn't Donald Trump at this point, Mark. This is Pam Bondi. And I constantly hear people saying, give her a chance, give her a chance. Things don't happen overnight. That's total nonsense, Mark. We've wanted the Epstein list since 2016. Okay, we've been asking for the Epstein list. They knew for the last 4 years. This isn't a Donald Trump issue. This isn't a Stephen Miller issue. This is none of the Trump people. This is Pam Bondi. What is she doing? Why is she so abhorrent in disrespecting President Trump's wishes? Trump told her, get that thing done. And you know what? It's not this only thing, Mark. I got a text over the weekend, which I'm going to read.
We know that that's what happened.
What's that?
The intercourse between Trump and Pam Bondi about the list.
President Trump told her to do it, and he was asked about it last week, and he said, that's on Pam Bondi. And so, what more is he supposed to do? He told her to declassify.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Get these documents out there, and it's unbelievable. But it's not just that. Ty Clevenger, who's represented me before, an attorney, who's representing a client on behalf of the Seth Rich case. Years ago, a federal judge made it permissible that Ty get Seth Rich's laptop. For years, he's been stonewalled by the FBI. Okay, understandably, it was the Biden administration. But it's now the Trump administration under Kash Patel. Why will they not turn over that Seth Rich laptop? Why? What are they hiding, Mark? What are they hiding in the Seth Rich documents? Do they not want to come out what we already know, that Seth Rich was leaking to Julian Assange, and Julian Assange was not really a Russian agent? Is that what they don't want us to know? We already know that. Just like Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, Mark. Real quickly, before I get your reaction, I want to read you this email I got from an attorney who I'm going to have on this show this week. His name is Kevin Evans, and he's an attorney, out of Colorado. And 3 or 4 years ago, he sued because he wanted documents. He found out the government was hiding thousands of documents, Mark, through a FOIA on Hunter Biden and how him and Joe Biden and Jim Biden were being paid from China and Ukraine. Documents, they won't turn them over, okay? They verified that they're there, but they won't turn them over. So I get this email on Tuesday as I'm sitting on a plane going to Scottsdale. Hey, John, thought you'd find this message from Maine Justice very interesting. Either the higher-ups in the Trump DOJ do not understand what is going on in the trenches, or there is something more to the story. Why is the Trump DOJ continuing to cover for and protect Hunter and James Biden? I'm trying to bring this case to the public's attention in an effort to pressure a change in the DOJ's position. This is from a man named Kevin Evans, okay? He is a Democrat. Did not vote for Donald Trump the first time. I don't think he's voted for Donald Trump the second time. This man is a Democrat, okay, who just wants truth, justice, and the American way. I'm sorry, Mark, again for bloviating, but, is this what we have to deal with now? Are we at a war with ourselves?
Yeah, yes, and Americans know it on every single one of these issues. That's the thing, is that the gaslighting doesn't work anymore, and the establishment still hasn't figured it out, and they're trying the same old tricks. People knew, like, people didn't think that Epstein killed himself. 52% to 21%, they thought he was murdered, and this was like back in 2020, like not long after it happened. So people knew. People on every single one of these things, they knew all about the Hunter Biden laptop and Biden. They were ready to impeach Biden 50% back in the winter of 22, like after the fall of 21. We had numbers in the 60s of people who 60% plus of people who said that Joe Biden was profiting personally and knowingly from his son's deals in China. The whole thing about his mental decline, Americans knew that. 66% of them wanted him to get a mental test back in February of 2022. And so here we are. And it's like Trump should not be leaning into the tactics. This was supposed to be a super transparent administration, and they've put a lot out, but you have to admit, a lot of it's come through Doge, a lot of it's come through Carolyn Levitt, and you have Dan Bongino out there saying stuff like, trust the plan, guys, there's hard stuff, blah, blah, blah. But you could tell us what that is. You could say, well, I think Americans are willing to acknowledge or understand that tell us the reason why you can't release Seth Rich's laptop, because in an absence of information, they're going to jump to the worst conclusions, which is, again, 72% of voters are concerned that we're living in a police state. That's the kind of stuff a police state does, is, lie to you and hide information and cover up criminality of all of the people involved. And who knows? I don't know. Maybe Trump made a deal with the Biden family. Who knows?
This is my problem. I don't think it's on Trump, and he's got so much going on right now that he just he can't be everywhere, every place. Let me ask you a stupid question, Mark. Are you stupid? I consider you probably one of the smartest people I know, Mark. The reason I ask you that question is because that's how we're being treated. And I constantly see these Twitter wars of people defending Bongino and defending Cash. And then I see a Kyle Seraphin who's on the complete total opposite side. And people are attacking him for literally asking the questions. It's not like these people took these jobs, Mark, and they were hit on day one with, okay, this is what you need to do. Okay, then I understand. They've known for the last 4 years that this is what we wanted. They've known for the last 4 years that this is what the American people have deserved. Okay, now let's pivot a little bit. They've known that's what the American people want. Now let's pivot to what they've told us for the last 4 years. How many days did Dan Bongino go on his show, making his millions of dollars a year, telling us, we're going to do this. This is what's going to happen. Okay, so you can't blame me and you, Mark. You can't blame the American people for sitting here asking for things when you went on air for the last 4 years telling us this is what you were going to do if you were ever in power. Okay, it's not incumbent upon us that we're the bad people all of a sudden because we're expecting this from you. You promised it. You told us this was going to happen. So it's not on us.
You said something that tickled a thought, and I went and looked at The Atlantic at the interview that they did with Donald Trump. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I saw a line that stuck out to me that kind of maybe puts it in perspective, maybe gives me a theory of exactly why we're seeing what we're seeing. And they brought up Hegseth, and Trump said some throwaway line to the extent like, I had a call with him, a positive call, and I think he's going to get it together. Well, if you know about what's happening with Hegseth, very little of it is stuff that he did personally. It's like things that happened because of the Signal Gate, but then it's like fake news that disgruntled people who are being fired are leaking to the media and lying about, right? Like that's his problem right now. Yeah. So I don't really think that Hegseth needs to get it together. He's probably doing a really great job at making our military into more like war fighters. And then you raise a great point about Bongino. He's been talking about all these changes for 4 years. He gets in, all of a sudden his tune changes. So I think what might explain that is that they're very concerned about comms. They're very concerned about consistency of message. And I've heard things about their team being more centrally led than it has been in the past. So I wonder if it isn't like, hey, everything's got to run through the White House. And then there's a bandwidth issue. There's not enough delegation going on. And all of a sudden they're worried about, you disagree, I see your head shaking. I think they're worried about making mistakes, and they should not be.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that was what the problem was the first time was I can't like push this point across any further, Mark, that it's not on Donald Trump. I'm not blaming Donald Trump for any of this. He's one single man who shouldn't be having to deal with this. And that's what pisses me the hell off, is that this man has given it his all, Mark. This man has put his life on the line, literally, not figuratively, has put his life on the line to put himself back in the situation with his family. And they put him in this situation. He's brought these people on to do a job, was expected. And once again, this isn't even a Donald Trump bad policy move, which we can say in 2016 that he had bad policy moves. I don't see any of this time. This was Donald Trump picking people who he believed this time. And you and I probably—
And we think they're still good. We think they're still good. I think there's probably like an execution issue with central leadership. And I'm not saying they're doing a bad job. I'm saying they need to take stock and assess whether what they are currently getting done is commensurate with the level of effort and output that people have expected, because Donald Trump has different expectations than Mitt Romney would have. Let's just say that, right?
Yeah.
And I think the answer to that, if they were objective, is no. This is not the same White House as January.
Yep. But so that's I mean, that's where my frustration is. And I constantly have people writing into me in comments and other people's shows I do, give them a chance. Okay, we are giving them a chance, Mark. But when you've sat here and promised us the world and haven't even delivered a thousandth of what you've promised us, what are we supposed to expect? What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just sit here and wait? We waited in 2016 to 2020, and we watched. We watched what happened to Jeff Sessions, a gutless man, and him turning over the Department of Justice to these radicals who hated Donald Trump. We watched what they've done to him. They've impeached him. They made his life hell. They gave him Russiagate. They've investigated his family. They investigated his children. They spied on him. Okay. So that's where my frustration comes. It's not with Donald Trump at all. Donald Trump is doing the best job he can possibly do with the hand he was given. Pam Bondi, in my opinion, has been the biggest letdown, more of a letdown than Bongino. I mean, she's just, I don't understand what her deal is. And I understand she's from the establishment wing, but she's another one who's promised us the world. What was it, Mark? A month or two ago, she said the documents are on my desk, ready to be distributed. I spoke to a lawyer. Mark, I spoke to a DOJ lawyer, a former, I won't say who it is, if it's a male or a female, but I spoke to this person, and they said to me, this woman couldn't be this was, I'm paraphrasing, but this is exactly what they intimated to me. It was about 150 pages or 300 pages of documents, right? And this person intimated to me, Pam Bondi cannot be this stupid to believe that 300 documents was the extent of the Epstein files. Yet she did. How does a career prosecutor, a career attorney for Florida, for the United States, believe, Mark, a petty burglary case, a petty robbery case file is more than 300 pages? I hate to break it to her. How is this woman this fooled? And that's where my issues come in, is that we have these people in there who are not, it's either you do your job or get the hell out. It's as simple as that. Pam, if you want to leave, I'm sure Fox News will pay you $1 million a year, $2 million a year. Let someone please come in and do the job that the American people overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump to do. Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. This is what challenges me, is that Americans, from a public opinion perspective, they're a temperature gauge, and they're saying things are bad now. Okay. And that's why we have Trump. But they also aren't on the front lines of this like we are, taking stock of exactly what's going on and trying to decide, well, are they getting what they voted for? Because if you look at Pam Bondi's numbers, are actually pretty good. She's above water, above 10 points, I think, at least in favorability. Only 8% of Republicans have a strong disapprove rating of her. And so, like, the stuff she's doing on Fox News has been good for her personal approval. But the way I kind of frame it is, listen, Trump didn't pick the time. Like, Trump made a platform, and it turns out when America was ready for Trump's platform, they came to him. But if you think about America as having a case of cancer, Ronald Reagan was really lucky in that he inherited America when it had a little lump on its skin and they had to go get the dermatologist to check it out. This is stage 4 cancer that the patient might die on the operating table. Like, that's where we're essentially at right now. We're talking about rapidly accelerating debt spiral, us losing the reserve status, an end to affordability, and now all of a sudden demographic collapse. So everybody, this is an all hands effort. Like, Trump is not all the team. Like, he hired people. He needs to delegate these people. He needs to hold them accountable listen, if they're not getting it done, like, he needs to do what he did with Hegseth, is like, give us some expectations and put her on the spot. Like, say, hey, I thought we'd have it out by now, and we're got to see what's happened, but I think we'll have it this month. And if she doesn't produce it, then people are going to say, all right, well, she's not holding up. She's got to go.
Yeah. But part of any beliefs, Donald Trump gives people too many chances. He's far too nice of a guy. I know what you guys see on TV is that big tough guy, but he's got far too big of a heart, and he gives people far too many chances. In my opinion, and I'm sure Donald Trump would tell you the same exact thing, he's far too nice for his own good, and that's a big problem. Let's talk about retribution, because that's one that Donald Trump is doing single-handedly. And it's not the retribution that the Marxist left said was going to happen. He's not just going into these people's houses and arresting them. He's went after these law firms who have undermined American democracy, have undermined our judicial system. He's going after these judges who are harboring illegal aliens. Okay. And now we've got a little issue with Tish James in New York. Tish James went after Donald Trump for overvaluing his property, paying back his loans on time and ahead of schedule. I'll put it at that. But all the while, she was throwing stones while she lived in a 5-family glass house, not 4, as she put down on her mortgage documents. And she lives in New York City, Brooklyn, New York, not Virginia, as she intimated on her mortgage application for her home in Norfolk, Virginia, that she says she lives in. I mean,
I bet you there's tax implications as well. Like, Mark,
it's insurance fraud, it's tax fraud, it's mortgage fraud. This is the kind of retribution that I like seeing, because it's calculated, it's to the point, and it's not a farce, as we saw what they did to Donald Trump. This is real crimes being committed by the Marxist Dems, and as you said, gaslighting to the fullest extent on their behalf.
Yeah, I'm looking this up. You made me think of something. I wonder how Reddit is taking this. And so I just had to
love your Reddit.
Had to check. Well, I mean, it's like they can spin anything in the world against Trump.
If you want, we can pull up your screen if you want to share what we're.
Let me see if I can find anything, because usually what happens is when there's something inconvenient, they don't want to talk about it. Oh yeah, there's really not a lot here.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
On a side note, we're going to be doing a very special episode on this Letitia James thing. I don't want to give it away because I want it to be a surprise, but we're going to have a very, very special guest. And we're going to be on location. I'll just leave it at that. But we're going to be covering the story in great depth, because I think it's incumbent upon us, Mark. It's incumbent upon us. I want to read you a text message that I sent to Letitia.
Hold on, I got it. 1 sec. Let me put it up. Letitia James. I went to Politics, Our Politics, the biggest political subreddit on Reddit.
Okay.
And I looked for Letitia.
If you can,
and I searched by
hot, so you can make it.
I searched for hot, which should be algorithmically anything that like was big recently. And look at this: 11 days ago on Our Politics, New York AG Letitia James accused of mortgage fraud. 0 votes. 13 days ago, John Turley unpacks a criminal referral against New York Attorney General Letitia James. 0 votes. Another one. 0 votes. 0 votes. Oh, finally we get the headline. New York AG Letitia James targeted for criminal prosecution by Trump admin. That one finally got 560 votes, but it's like that's nothing for Reddit. This is some grade A authoritarian-ish right here. He's getting ready to purge. Isn't that why he has to wear like they think that this is that? I love it because everybody knows exactly what she did, right? It's like, there's a 4 unit. Oh, there's a 5 unit. Oh, now all of a sudden I need a commercial mortgage with a 30% down payment. Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
It's just there's no running away from it. But what we're going to see is leftist backflips to try and convince us that this is like Kristallnacht or something like that. Is like Trump breaks down everybody's windows and puts them in incarceration.
You know, she can't even use the excuse, Mark, that her people signed her paperwork, because it doesn't matter if you forge the documents or someone else signs it. It's incumbent upon you as you're sworn under perjury. And, you know, that was the defense that Trump's CFO, Alan Weisselberg, used. He said, you know, I didn't really know. And to his defense, he probably didn't know. The guy was getting a driver or Trump hit. He's like, you know, somebody signed the documents. And Tish James goes, well, I don't care. So she can't even use that defense. But anyway, I want to read you this message that I texted to her.
Well, just like one sec, though. I mean, like, that's where judicial equity comes in, like, which is based on real biblical equity, which is like, no, this guy really messed up. And yeah, he committed a crime, but we're not going to prosecute him because it's probably the wrong thing to do or blah, blah, blah. Instead, they were like, oh, let's give Trump 125 years of, like, you know, let nail him to the wall. And so
let's send this elderly CFO to jail for getting a driver to work every day, or his grandkids went to school. I mean, come on. But this is the precedent they set. So you know what? This is how we're going to live by it. And I always say, don't recreate the law. Don't change the law. Follow the law. And that's what we're doing. And that's what at least Tisha James said. Famously, nobody's above the law. Well, guess what? You ain't either. So listen to this text message I sent to her. Good afternoon, Tish. Reaching out for comment, but I also want to commend you on your real estate portfolio. What you have amassed, real estate-wise, as a career public servant is very impressive, but even to the likes that Donald Trump should be impressed. On to the comment. Power of attorney documents show that you signed that you were a citizen of the Commonwealth of Virginia. This would effectively make you ineligible to be the Attorney General of New York. Was this not your signature on these documents? Were they forged documents? If so, do you know who the suspect could be? I look forward to hearing from you in an attempt to clean your name and clear your name of any corruption. He responds back, lost context. Who this?
Wait. She responded?
Yeah. Oh, man. But
no
I promise you, you know, here, I'll pull the text message back up. I mean, but this is what we're dealing with, Mark. This is everyone.
Yeah.
She did.
Oh man.
But I mean, it's just this is what we're up against. These people think that they're bulletproof. There's only one Teflon Don, Mark, and that's Donald J. Trump.
Yeah. Who famously got through his life without any major criminal civil violations all the way up until 2015. And then it's like tens of millions a year of like
not as much as a
tickets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Man, you can look at every single one of those people in Congress, and I mean, one of them's got a DUI, one of them's got a domestic violence, one of them's got this, one of them's got, and this man didn't have as much as a damn parking ticket. Now, you know what? I'll give the Democrats the defense that, you know, he didn't really drive his car that much. Although there is a good video out there of Donald Trump driving in his Rolls Royce, Melania's in the back seat, Barron's in the front seat, and they're listening to Taylor Swift. That's the only video I've ever seen. I promise. It's totally brilliant. You can find it out there. They listen to T Swizzy. But, you know, this is the new precedent that they set, Mark. So, you know what? That's their choice. And as I said, we're not going to recreate the law. We're not going to change the law.
You are being too nice to the congressional people, you know? It's abuse. They got them filming like porn videos in their offices. They probably they're on tapes with Mossad, honeypotted them. They have like, what was that whole thing about a slush fund? I haven't heard anything about a slush fund since Trump got into office again. We should know more about that.
I'll give you a funny one. Where I live in Staten Island, New York, our former congressman, who's now the borough president, I should tell you, back in, I think it was 2009, 2010, he gets pulled over in Virginia. He got a DUI, but that was the least of his problems, right? He gets a DUI, heavily intoxicated, after leaving a Rangers hockey party. Tells the police officer that he's on his way to his second wife's house or his girlfriend's house, and he's got another kid with a different woman. So he goes to jail. The lady, his name is Vito Fossella, who I have zero respect for, and I see him all the time up at my golf club. I see him all the time, hammered, drunk, still drives home. Clearly hasn't learned his lesson. I see him all the time, and this man proceeds to tell the cop, his other girlfriend comes and bails him out. He's got a whole nother family with this woman who was an astronaut, and he has his whole family here at home. And people look at this guy with respect and they kiss his ass. And I look at him like, you're a total sleaze. You're a total lowlife. Now, my father's joke is, I have one wife. I don't know. I can never vote for a man who would want another wife after having one. but it's crazy that people revere these people. They look up to them.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, I give him the dirty look, and he's a sleaze. And he's a total scum and a total sleaze bag. But people look up to these politicians, Mark.
Yeah, it's perverse. It is perverse. The American people deserve better. And there's something about politics that attracts all of the worst people. And there's really no solution for it other than to literally just jail them all for the crimes they've committed. I know that's an uncomfortable thing to say, but I think it's the truth. Maybe we should poll on that. I was getting really hopeful about all the changes they were making to Guantanamo and stuff like that. But just think about like the hundreds of years of just like strong, upstanding community leaders. Like I had like people who like church leaders and Cub Scout leaders and all of these people who just, doing the right thing, volunteering their time, being a leadership to other people, being a positive influence. And instead, you have an entire class of people who think it's their job to either maximize shareholder value at the cost of Americans. And I'm not a stakeholder capital guy, but I'm an ethics guy, right? And a whole other class of people who would love to work hand in glove with them to help them rob the treasury. And they think it's their divine right.
Yeah, you're absolutely. And you know what? It really pisses me off, and specifically the insider trading stuff. Is my father, as I said, worked on Wall Street his whole life, and I watched my father, Mark, break his back. Okay, I watched my father break his back my entire life. Not be at my baseball games, not be at my football games, not be at my golf matches because he was out working. And I was resentful for it for years, but until I realized what he was doing it for. He put 4 kids through college, Mark, not one student loan for any of us. He put one through law school. And he never faltered or wavered at any of us, and he was breaking his back. So to watch my father go through life like that, and you know what? The reason I was so close with Lou Dobbs is because he reminded me so much of my father in the sense where he had so much honesty and so much integrity that they didn't falter left or right, did their taxes every year, didn't owe $1, overpaid their taxes. Everything was honest. I'm sure there was years where my father was privy to inside information and never acted on it. And the same thing with the great Lou Dobbs. And I watch these people and I watch them bust their ass their entire life, Mark, give everything to their families. And the same thing can be said about Lou Dobbs. He left behind a situation for his kids and his family and his grandkids. All he ever cared about was talking about his grandkids, and everything he paid for and everything he bought was for the grandkids. And all he cared about was putting his grandkids through college. And it pisses me off sitting here knowing that my father did that. You're doing that for your kids. The great Lou Dobbs did that for his kids and his grandkids. Yet we have these scumbags in Congress who go there, make $175,000 a year, but have $10 million stock portfolios. And we're the idiots, Mark. We're the idiots because we're honest.
Yeah. Integrity. We did a whole segment on it, I think, back in the fall. This is a crisis of integrity. And I really don't know how you fix it. It's related to the collapse in religion. And I'll say that people still identify very religious. They don't attend churches as much. I think part of that is the lack of integrity in the church institution as well. But ultimately what it comes down to is nobody's perfect, but the whole idea is that you're supposed to try to be, right? Like all the time and do the right thing. And that's just not culturally relevant right now. And it's super sad. And I think it's probably tangentially a casualty of the war on masculinity. I think that has a really big thing to do with it. But it's like there has been a concerted war on men and objectivity and values and facts, like a war on all of those things. And obviously it's an extension of the Marxist methodologies that they're using to achieve their oligarchic outcomes. But that stuff's got to get fixed too. And that's bigger than Donald Trump. And so, again, I don't know how you go about doing that. I mean, again, nobody's perfect, but if our institutions get fixed, they need to be run by people who have integrity. Where are they going to come from? How are we going to find them?
Yep.
How's that going to change?
Yeah,
I don't have an answer to that question. Yeah,
nobody does, Mark. Otherwise, it would have changed by now. You're absolutely right. And the only word that comes to mind, Mark, is accountability. and there's no accountability anymore for anything.
Yep.
I'm reading a story this morning, doing my morning reading, Mark, not to go off into a tangent here. And you and I could speak for hours and hours and hours. It's probably the only person I could do it with on the show because there's just so much we agree on, so much we can talk about. But I was reading an article today about schools in Chicago and Illinois, and 80% of the kids are not proficient in math. Let me see if I can pull up the story here, because this goes back to accountability, Mark. Nobody holds these people accountable for not teaching our kids. They push them up to the next grade and so on and so forth. And these kids don't know how to read. They don't know how to do math.
Yeah.
They don't know how to spell. None of it. Let me pull this up right here, because here we go. It's the most insane story that I've seen in a long time, but this is what we've allowed, Mark. This is what we have allowed in our schools. This is what we've allowed in our society. Here we go. I think we've got it up here. Here we go. Breitbart. Report: not one child tested proficient in math in 80 Illinois schools. 2024 finds not a single child rated proficient in math in 80 schools in 2024. No child was proficient in reading. Despite these dismal numbers, 70% of the students were graduated to the next grade in 2024, Mark. So keep on pushing them through. The numbers also show more than 18,000 Illinois students among its more than 4,000 students were not proficient in basic education at age levels. This is what we've allowed, Mark. This is what we've allowed to happen in our society because there is no accountability. There's no accountability for our teachers. There's no accountability for the schools. There's no accountability for anyone. So why not, Mark? Why not just keep doing whatever the hell you want to do? You're getting your $100,000 a year as a school teacher. You're getting your summers off. You're getting your pension. Why should they even care?
It's a leadership problem. Ultimately, is that the problem is I guess there's always been people without integrity, but there's always been enough that percolate to the top that can be strong leaders that come in and say, no, like, we're fixing this, right? Like, this is not the way it's going to be here. And then other people look up to them and say, oh yeah, you're right, or are inspired to do things different, or decisions get made that help fix these problems. And I've read a lot about this. My wife's an educator. There are no easy answers to the collapse in education in our country, because a lot of it is problems with the parent, a lot of it is social economic, a lot of it is cultural. And ultimately what you're seeing is these people are getting advanced because the system has no better idea what to do with them. But again, there is no accountability. But there's no accountability anywhere, right? Governors aren't being held accountable for the fact that they have essentially these really horrible areas that kids are having a problem being, raised with. They're not tough on the gangs that these kids are getting pulled into. In fact, they're inviting more gang members here. And so, again, I don't know how you fix it. I can tell you though that schooling is probably one of the least dirty shirts. Only 35% of American adults say that our public school systems, their performance is poor, although 34% say fair. But I mean, it's horrifying. And I guess this is a lot of these people can afford to send their kids to good schools or whatever. Yeah, it's bad. And I just wonder, my kids are really intelligent. We're homeschooling them. They're being trained the right way. Man, maybe they'll have boundless economic opportunities. Maybe they'll get the 5 jobs that aren't taken over by AI. Yep. Because I don't know how America, we talk about the demographic decline. I don't know, throw the educational decline on top of that. How do you even run a service economy like that?
You can't.
It doesn't work. This is more of the debt spiral, the death of a republic. This is the kind of thing that happens. And again, those people in leadership positions, like you said, are very comfortable.
Yep. I'm sure back when your wife went to school to become an educator, she said she wanted to help children. And the reason I know that probably to be true is because my mother was a school teacher for a few years until she decided to have 4 kids. And she taught 2nd and 4th grade. And she did it not for the money, because there was no money in it. I think my mother told me the year she had to retire because she had my oldest sister, she was making $12,000 a year, Mark, teaching at a private school in Brooklyn. So clearly it wasn't for the money. It was because she wanted to help children. And I think we've gotten away from that, and people want to do it for the summers off, the pension, and, an easy job, because You don't send kids to summer school anymore. Back when I was in school, if you failed the subject, Mark, your damn summer was ruined, and you got home and you got an ass whooping because that meant no summer vacation for the family down to Myrtle Beach because little Johnny's going to summer school. Not that I failed classes, but that's what was understood.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the problems is the emasculation of society, and elementary school has always been very heavily female education, right? The teachers have almost predominantly been, although there's been a lot of male high school students. I think that's important that young men have male role models in teaching positions that they can look up to. And if they can't get it from a church or somewhere else, it's good that they get it from school. But back to the mental health issue, like elementary school children are learning how to reason. They're learning how to interact with adults and what the world looks like. And the demographics of their teaching population is 18 to 39-year-old, mostly liberal-leaning females, which, again, according to the Pew polling, is the highest incident of diagnosed mental conditions. And so we have essentially insane people who are probably trying to propagandize these people. I'm generalizing, right? It might not be like this in deep red Texas, or maybe it's worse. I don't know. But it's a trend. And I can tell you, I know firsthand, anecdotally, of all kinds of conservative-oriented individuals dropping out of public education because they just can't take the poor leadership is what they all come back to. It's all like super woke, super performative, not focused on objective measures, chasing sort of the ideology du jour, and that's permeated the educational leadership level.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think this is easy for you to talk about because I see your kids and I see the way you interact with your kids when they come down to your studio. Extremely respectful to you, respectful, to the authority. Kids aren't raised that way anymore, and that's a big problem.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Mark, I want to turn to polling. We've kept the people waiting as we've pivoted and, as Donald Trump calls it, weaving through, just about everything we can talk about. Some new polling out in President Trump's first 100 days. Fox News goes to their number one pollster. What's his name? Karl Rove, I believe is his name. We've got something we want to share here with the audience if we can get it up here. Karl Rove says Donald Trump is not doing too well right now, so I want to get your reaction to this. Do we got it up? There we go. We've got it. Quote, he's in very bad shape. Karl Rove absolutely dumps on Trump in scathing Fox News segment. What they forgot to mention is Fox News is filled with a bunch of Trump haters. They call him a legendary GOP operative, Mark. Man's been wrong about just about everything in the last 15 years. Bushy. Fox News contributor Karl Rove declared that President Donald Trump is in very bad shape during a scathing segment over the weekend. Rove's comments came after host Paul Giggett, editor of the Wall Street Journal's editorial page, observed that a Fox News poll demonstrated that only 38% of Americans approve of Donald Trump's job performance on the economy. Even fewer approve of his handling of inflation, tariffs, and asked Rove to weigh in. Quote, he is, talking about Trump, off to a good start only on one issue, and that's border security, where his approval rating is 11 points ahead of his overall approval rating. He gets reasonably good marks on immigration and handling of deportation, but even those he's upside down on. We'll leave it at that because I don't want to quote any more from this man who I don't think very highly of. Tell us the real scuttlebutt, Mark. Is Donald Trump as underwater as Karl Rove tells us?
No, you can put my screen up if you want to. I mean, we
Yes,
poll
sir.
presidential approval nightly for the last 20 years, basically, and we're the only ones that actually poll it on a daily basis. So we're the experts, and I'll borrow a quote
Are you
from
able to
Rich
zoom in a little
Barris.
bit, Mark, on that so the people
Yeah.
can see?
I'll probably gonna open it in a new. There we go. I'll borrow a quote from Rich Barris, who says, "How can you possibly poll presidential approval accurately if you can't even predict elections correctly?" Because all of the people that are being cherry picked right now to drive this Trump collapse headline are people who were 5, 6, 7, 8, even 9 points to the left of us back in August, September, October. Names like Reuters, Ipsos, ABC News, Washington Post, CNN, all these people were super far left, and they came back to the right a little bit, but they're completely susceptible to the narratives. It's like, if there needs to be a narrative that's negative for Trump, these polls will move to the left, and they're doing it now. The 6 of them dropped just over the weekend, right in advance of Donald Trump's 100 days, and they were worse than any of the polls that those organizations had put out before. And I'll tell you, Fox News is one of them. And I have a question for Fox News about why their pollster is so anti-Trump and so horrible. He has been over and over again. I don't know who it is, but I know where you can get a good one. What's his name?
I think her name is Dana Blanton, and a very nice woman.
Familiar.
Very, very nice woman, but I don't think she does the polls herself. I think they outsource them all. She gets the numbers back, and that's that. Very, very nice woman. I used to sit right outside her office.
Well, the pollster is the one doing the polling, in my opinion. I'm up to my knees in data every day, and Nate Cohn at the New York Times is not. He doesn't run his own methodology and that kind of stuff. So I think that's important too. I can tactily feel the shift in trends and stuff like that. But look here. I mean, before we pick this apart, I mean, Trump's been ripping on Fox News about how horrible they are. I'm just putting it out there. We can do it. We'll poll cheaper than any of the people that you're working with. The results will be more accurate. I don't need to whip out our accuracy track record on your show, John. I know I don't have to. But I will say that our approval numbers for Trump are higher than others, moderately so, especially more because people really wanted him to fail on his first term. And so they applied a very across-the-board sandbag. But our approval numbers were also higher for Biden than most other people as well. Biden, we had most of the time in the low 40s. A lot of people had him getting down to the low 30s. So you can't use Quinnipiac 3 years ago and say, oh, look, Biden's got a 33% approval rating, and then yell at Quinnipiac's Trump approval rating. Both of them should have been summarily dismissed. Yep. So here's the straight truth, okay? This big spike, this big light purple spike is Obama won. And there was a really unique reason why that spike. They thought Obama was going to come in and wave a magical wand and heal the economic wounds of the great financial crisis. Suffice to say, it didn't happen. And so people, after about 6 months, kind of got over the fact he was the first black president. Then he tried to recreate the entire healthcare industry. And look at that. His polling was between 45 and 50%. Almost the entire 8 years, both purple lines. Look at that red line. That's Trump won. What does it look like? It looks exactly like Obama polling. Yeah. Exactly like Obama polling. And now Trump 2 is this bright red line over on the left, and it looks like it's doing a good job tracing just about where Trump came in, higher than where Biden came in, although Biden had this little spike because of COVID mask mandates being lifted. And what you see here is that there was this period right here, fall of 21, where everybody realized, oh crap, Biden sucks. He is a bad president. And his numbers never really recovered. They rallied a little bit kind of because of the Supreme Court Dobbs decision in the midterms, but he exited office structurally lower than Trump won. And I think this Trump 2 red line is just going to probably be higher than Obama here because Trump got way more votes, right? It makes sense.
Now,
and that's it.
Right?
So is this good enough or bad enough for ABC to run a poll that shows that Donald Trump at the 100-day mark has the lowest presidential approval rating in 80 years? I mean, we are on the brink of civil war. That partly probably has something to do with it, but he's doing a good job. He's not going to have a high approval rating. I'll tell you that right now.
Let's take a look at that, what you had just mentioned, and that's the approval ratings as we look at Real Clear Politics. and their averages. If we could zoom in here a little bit so that people can see where we're at. So ABC, Washington Post, of course, Marxist leftists who hate America and hate Donald Trump even more than they hate the country, has theirs at 42% approval rating, 55 disapproval, the -13 spread. New York Times, CNN at the same time, who, by the way, has been the most inaccurate pollsters I think I've ever seen in these last two election cycles. 42% approval rating, CNN 43%, CBS News 45%, Rasmussen has them at 47%. So the bottom to top here, Qantas Insights, who also a very nice guy, and you and I got to meet him a few months ago, has been pretty spot on as well. And you guys, probably two of the most accurate pollsters as for this last election. Somehow you guys are on the same wavelength, 45, 47, 48, give or take a point or two, whatever your guys' margin of error is. It doesn't show it on here, but whatever. How are you guys so far off from ABC News and New York Times, CNN?
No, we're not. Well, first off, I'll say we have Trump underwater 5 right now. I think it's going to go back up. I think we got him kind of at a trough right now. It'll probably be more like net -2 or something like that long term. And so whatever. There's other people there with us, but I think the news is that, like, read those names. ABC, there's 6 of them that just dropped over the weekend. ABC News, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, CBS, and then the Fox News poll, and then Reuters Ipsos. All of those, okay? Those, every single one of those organizations put out an electoral map that showed that Kamala Harris was going to win. Correct. Forget their national popular vote, which was also off. Almost every one of them was at least 3 points to the left. Many of them were like 4 or 5. But what's crazy also to me is that New York Times Siena hasn't polled since November. And all of a sudden, they just appear out of nowhere. 100 days, look at this turd. And then ABC News, Washington Post, same thing. You look at the history on Real Clear Politics, it's not there. They haven't polled. Now, CNN, CBS, all these other guys, what those represent is the lowest Trump's done in their polling. And so what I see now, what it feels like to me is what it felt like back in August, where Biden was losing by 5. Then Kamala Harris became the candidate. And the race tightened to about a 2-point race. And then it stopped at 2 points. And everybody else kept going left. They kept going left. That's exactly what's happening now. And that's because they're trying to drive a narrative that, like, you can even see it on Google. It's actually incredible. If you go to Google Trends and look at Trump approval, I actually have it on my Twitter feed. I could pull that back up too. Look at Trump approval, and what you'll see is that on Google Trends data, people are searching for that term almost more than they ever have. Yeah, let me share this.
Send it to me on Twitter. I can pull it up here. I've got Twitter pulled up. Let's see.
I'm sharing. Here it is. All right, just add my screen.
All right, now you got me with technology.
This is like a proof, in my opinion, this is proof that a psychological operation is happening. Okay. And so when people start searching for a term, it usually is as the result of some kind of stimuli, meaning, hey, they heard an article on the radio, or they got a push notification on their phone or something like that. They go to Google. And so this blue line, this is all of Google's history going back 21 years.
Are you able to maximize the window, Mark?
Yeah, let me oh man.
You're
a bunch of boomers doing, yeah.
I might as well be.
So this blue line's Trump approval, and what do you notice? Green line is Bush, yellow line's Obama, blue line's Trump, and red line's Biden. Trump approval in general, people care a lot more about than any other president. Why is that? Well, it's probably because he's the anti-establishment candidate, and the mainstream media has been harping on his approval to undermine him. That's my theory of the case. Look, can you even imagine that? I mean, look at that spike in 2008. Obama's peak spike of people looking up Obama's approval rating is like average Trump. Right. And here we are, right, all the way at the end here, in the first couple of months of Trump's second administration, and people are searching Trump approval as much as they were at any point in time in his first term. And so I think it's because they're literally out there just spamming everybody with news about this stuff, that Trump's approval is bad. And the mainstream media pollsters provided them all the ammunition they needed. And it's sick. That's all they have. They haven't been able to stop him in Congress. All they have is corrupt media and a couple of activist judges.
Yeah, they're demented too, Mark. I mean, I don't understand what the deal is. These pollsters don't care about being right. They just care about making him look bad. But you would figure now coming up next year will be 10 years. I mean, we're at 10 years because he announced in 2015. So 10 years now, these people don't care about ruining their name or their accuracy. They just care about belittling this man, but nobody believes it and nobody cares. It empowers Donald Trump's base even more by them doing this. How have these people not woken up, Mark, and smelt the coffee?
I mean, you know the culture of these newsrooms, right? And if I guess the boss wants things a certain way and my paycheck depends on it, I'm going to, have no integrity.
Yeah. The crazy thing is it never gets down to a granular level. Like I saw the management when I was at Fox News. I saw how they didn't like Trump, and I saw how they tried to spin stories a certain way. And it wasn't until Lou Dobbs was no longer there and I started working for Rhinos that I started to realize the culture there. They were all too scared to bring it to Lou's face, and they were cowards. Because that's what they are, Mark. They're cowards. These people are total cowards. And they sit there and they sit behind a closed door and they talk, and then they push it to the next person. And there's a few people there who they control. Management controls anchors. And they never had the testicular fortitude to do it to Lou Dobbs, because I don't think they would have liked the answer. And it wasn't Lou Dobbs as a tough guy. He had so much integrity that he wasn't going to allow someone to drive the direction of his show, and he would have given up his show and lost his show and gotten fired or got canceled before he took their advice to do what they wanted to do. And that's ultimately what happened, and it's why Lou Dobbs goes down as one of the greatest journalists of all time. Is he was never for sale, and he could have made a hell of a lot of money, Mark, if he put a for sale sign on his forehead, more than he made. And his integrity was worth. And I used to tell him all the time, Mark, you have way too much integrity to be in this business. You've got to get the hell out. Even when we started this podcast, he'd tell me, double check this, triple check that. And I'm like, Lou, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Any advertiser we had, do this and do that. Make sure this is good. He'd read over contracts 10, 15, 20 times to make sure that they were good. And I'm like, Lou, it's just a damn ad deal. Let's get this thing out of the way. And no, I want a lawyer to read this. And he had so much integrity, Mark, that people don't have anymore.
This is, I'm going to share my screen again. I love that we can do this now. We used to just talk a lot, but this is I think my favorite image ever. Hold on. I'll open it in a new tab, make it bigger.
You've shared this before. It's so brilliant.
It's so brilliant. What blows my mind on a daily basis is that the enemy of truth right now is agreeable people, and they're using essentially the tactics. Again, I don't want to make it gendered again, but there is a very masculine aspect of pursuing the truth, engaging in tough dialogue, a dialectic, Western classical, the origins of our intellectual discourse. There's something very masculine and disagreeable about that. To say I'm going to do battle on the field of ideas. Yeah. And the fact that Trump is in office because of disagreeable people, a majority of disagreeable people, when Americans are fundamentally nice and agreeable folks, and what's being used against them is the tactics of agreeableness. Oh, everybody thinks this. Oh, Trump is retribution. Oh, you can't, that's so unreasonable. Oh, he's not presidential. Those are all the things that are being thrown at people. And they're saying no more. And we don't need all of America. I was really interested since the last time we talked. April 20th came and went. April 19th and 20th, a very important weekend in America's history, because in 1775, Paul Revere warned of the advancing British troops. Concord and Lexington happened. And it made me think about how actually pivotal that day was as compared to July 4th, 1776, when our Declaration of Independence was finally signed. The Declaration of Independence did not start the war. In fact, it was a tactic to sustain the war, because what had happened is a whole bunch of disagreeable militia folks up in Massachusetts said, I don't care about the rest of the country. I'm shooting at British. The British shot first. The shot heard around the world, but they're the ones that organized a militia of thousands of troops and staked out the British and harried them through the bloody retreat all the way back to Boston, where they really didn't leave. And only then was it like, well, we're fighting a war, so I guess we might as well declare ourselves. So it really does come down to agreeable men with integrity who say, like, no more. And that's kind of happening now, and it'll potentially become part of the cultural zeitgeist, but there needs to be more leadership. And you look around, and it's like Trump feels awfully, awfully alone. And I hope that problem gets fixed.
You know what? Whether it does or it doesn't, he's one of the men who I can trust to stand alone, and he'll be fine. He's done it his last 10 years. He's now, metaphorically, I say alone. He's had a few people by his side, but when those indictments started coming down, we saw all the rats that ran under pressure, squealing like they were, ready to be killed, metaphorically, of course.
Yeah.
But he had his few people who stayed by his side, the Stephen Millers, the Dan Scavinos. And then, we had the people who took plea deals and ran and flipped, which, Mark, it still blows my mind to the day. Namely, one I can think of is Jenna Ellis, the dumbest person, the dumbest attorney I would never hire for free. This woman's an attorney. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she was one of Trump's lawyers. Not really, but this woman took a plea deal, Mark, as a lawyer, admitting to a crime that she didn't commit, that she knew she didn't commit as a lawyer. This is what we were up against. And this woman, how stupid can you be as an attorney to take a plea deal, Mark, for a crime that you knew you didn't commit? You know the law perhaps better than anybody as an attorney, yet you took a plea deal. But this is what it came to in society. People flipped and they ran like rats, and that's exactly what they were.
Yeah. No, I think you're right about Trump, too. My question mark, again, is I think Trump's a very unique situation, right? He, outsider, made his wealth in a way that people can understand tactilely is the word, right? That he did it in a fundamentally good way. Like, he developed real estate. He didn't screw somebody over or whatever, right? He built hotels and golf courses, and he was on TV. And he built trust on TV. People didn't dislike him there. Yep. And so he has a lot of earned goodwill where people say, okay, if we send him to DC, I'm pretty sure, I think that this is the mental calculus people did subconsciously, pretty sure if we send him to DC, he might be chaotic, but he's not going to be corrupted. Yeah. And America is going to lose that in January of 2028. And whoever goes on the ticket is not going to have that same advantage on the Republican side. You and I know that as soon as the ink is dry on Trump's endorsement of whoever is going to follow him, that person will now be the center of attention of DC and assailed from every direction by every manner of scumbag who's trying to gain influence, get that person to flip, get their tentacles into, make some kind of deal. And I don't know if anybody's going to be able to stand up to that barrage. No. And I don't know if the Americans are going to trust anybody to either. And so that's one of the things we're up against. And that's coming fast. Yep. I guess we got the midterms first, but
Mark, they're almost guaranteed to be indicted also immediately for not recycling their garbage. I'm going to leave the audience here with a little cliffhanger, which I know I hate, because it drives me crazy. But I was told by a very prominent person in Washington, D.C. politics not too long ago to sit back and relax, and that J.D. Vance most likely will not be the 2028 nominee. Now, they didn't tell me who will be. They didn't say anything more than that, but they had intimated with very great confidence that it wouldn't be J.D. Vance. No. As I often say, because people get so pissed off when I talk about this, that's my personal take. It's not my personal take. To be honest with you, I don't really have one yet. I don't know. I want to see what happens over the next few years before I make a decision on who I like for 2028. I like J.D. Vance so far. Once again, folks, don't tune out and curse at me and send in hateful messages. It's not my take. I know a lot of you guys out there like JD Vance. I like JD Vance. This is what was intimated to me. And I've said this from the beginning, just on my personal hunch of being in politics my whole entire life, that I don't think it's going to be JD Vance because we have so much time to happen. You know, if we look back, Mark, in 2016, everyone's like, it's Trump for 8 years and then it's going to be Mike Pence for 8. And I'm like, slow down, guys, slow down. So once again, it's not my personal take, Mark. This is just what I'm told. And in full transparency, I tell the audience what I'm told by people of prominence. You get the last word here, Mark.
No, interesting. Now I have to come up with a lot of other names to put on the potential list. Oh, it makes 100%. There's no reason that just because he got picked as a running mate and now as the vice president that he's necessarily the front runner. I mean, he should, but what you'd be looking at over the next couple of years is in what capacity or role does Trump use him in, and is he actively grooming him? And to hear this kind of decision, I mean, I just objectively, if I was in Trump's shoes, I would punt as long as possible. And so to hear something like that, I think, well, either something happened behind the scenes that's no bueno, which is possible, or maybe that's just the kind of thing you would tell people in order to keep suspension up. Maybe it's part of some deal that had to get cut. I really don't know. All I know numerically is that J.D. Vance leads Stephen A. Smith by 4 points in a 2028 matchup. So there is that. He would win a potential Democrat challenger. We haven't done the general matchups for 2028 yet. I think he'd do okay, but not as good as Trump. But Trump didn't win by that much. Yeah. So that could be part of the calculus. Interesting.
Once again, folks, it's not my take. It's not my opinion on it. This was told to me. And this person didn't say that it's going to be Trump as the nominee in 2028. They intimated that idea is the dumbest thing they've ever heard. The fact that J.D. Vance would run for president and then resign to let Donald Trump be president again. Whoever the nominee is would never do that. I mean, that's absurd to even think that. So once again, don't shoot the messenger. Mark, I'm going to leave the audience with something I told you. For everyone who's a sports fan, Stephen A. Smith is the Jim Cramer of sports. Man who's never played it. For
I don't know enough about sports to call you wrong, so maybe I guess. But he knows who the right pollster to go to is. I can tell you that.
America knows, Mark.
Yeah, man, no Vance. It's interesting.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Let's let things be calm and easy, and but
there's objectively things about him that aren't perfect, like the origins. I don't doubt the origins, but the fact that he's been tied into the venture capital realm where the tech oligarchy has been accused of potentially interfering with the cooler MAGA policies, I don't know. Yeah. Like there's that question, where the loyalties lie and stuff like that. And also the guy's only 40 years old. Like there's an aspect of, well, somebody with more experience could be better. Who knows?
We've got a lot of time. And like I said, I like J.D. Vance. I met him about a year ago. I met him. Very nice guy. His wife, very nice lady. But, then again, they're politicians, so they're paid to be nice. So I don't know what's going to happen. Mark's the pollster. I'm just relaying information, so don't shoot me.
Yeah, too soon for matchups. Give it another couple of months.
Mark, I know when I asked you to come on today, I said we'd talk for a half hour. Here we are an hour and a half later. We could probably talk for another hour and a half. So I'll give you a call tonight. And we'll figure out the rest of this conversation. Mark Mitchell on Twitter at Honest Pollster. Catch Mark's show on Rumble. What is it? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Mark?
Only Monday, Wednesday this week. We're doing Monday tonight is Monday at 9:00 Eastern, and we're probably going to do Wednesday in the afternoon because I think we might have a guest.
So, folks, after you watch this show tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern. Well, by the time it's wrapped up, it'll be just after the 7 o'clock hour. I want you guys to tune into Mark. Rasmussen Reports on YouTube, Rasmussen Reports on Rumble. Follow Mark on Rumble, get his Rumble numbers up to where ours are. And we appreciate you, Mark, taking the time to join us today. Until next time, my friend.
Yeah, good time. We covered a lot. Good to be here.
See you soon. Thanks to Mark Mitchell, and thank you all, folks, for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We hope to see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Happy Monday. Have a great night.